Hey everybody, producer Tom Barnes here in the West Ridge community for the love of Chicago. Before I get to my friend Paul Durica over at the Chicago History Museum to give me some proper knowledge of the West Ridge community, I thought I'd show you Ridge Avenue. It is the geographical point where it separates West Ridge from Rogers Park. As you can see, looking down the street here, you see the ridge sloping down to Lake Michigan into Rogers Park. So Paul, what else do we need to know about the West Ridge community?
Let's start with the name, West Ridge. The ridge is an actual geologic elevation that's been there since the Ice Age. You know, some main streets that you'll find in the West Ridge area are like Lunt Avenue, but Devon and Western were historically really the kind of two commercial corridors within the neighborhood. That's where you'd find the majority of businesses. And on Western Avenue, you'd find like a lot of restaurants. You'd find all these car dealerships, including one that claimed to be the biggest Chevy dealership in the world. And you'd also find a lot of bowling alleys, one of which, Sunset Bowling, stayed up all night long. The community that we know as West Ridge has also been known throughout its history as West Rogers Park. And that's key because these two communities have a deep and long and not always friendly relationship with one another.
How so?
Rogers Park kind of formed as a village in 1878, and what is today West Ridge was originally part of it. But the people living west of the ridge in an area that was primarily agricultural felt like they weren't getting represented in local government. So they actually broke off and formed their own village in 1890. Interestingly enough though, both of them get absorbed into the city of Chicago in 1893, but the conflict doesn't end there, and it leads to the Cabbage Head War of 1896.
It's truly interesting how neighborhoods evolve over time. You're looking at Estes Avenue that stops dead in its tracks right here on the northern edge of Indian Boundary Park. And you can see it's turned itself into a literal parkway along the route here all the way up to Western Avenue, among many things that have changed over time. But you know there used to be crops grown here? Paul, what kind of crops?
You could find corn, cabbage, beans. But by the end of the 19th century and the early 20th century, West Ridge was really known for being a place where flowers were grown. There were greenhouses kind of throughout the area. Now the Cabbage Head Wars was really meant to be kind of a slur on a lot of the German immigrants who were living in West Ridge. And basically they wanted a park district that was independent from the park district that Rogers Park was trying to set up. And in 1896 they held a vote and they formed their own park district.
All right, so we got the name West Ridge, but where exactly is the ridge that makes up West Ridge?
I mean, it runs basically kind of parallel along what is Ridge Avenue today, which is the eastern boundary of the West Ridge neighborhood. Everything east of that is Rogers Park.
Well, here's a fun fact about this park. Take a look at the keystone taken from the arch of the Washington Street entrance in Old City Hall that sits here in Indian Boundary Park. Other fun fact, I bet you didn't know there used to be another zoo. Paul, explain.
And Indian Boundary is a really fascinating park to visit. It's got a beautiful 1920s era field house. It has the remains of what was once a zoo. For a long time, it was the only other zoo in the city of Chicago outside of Lincoln Park. They had a black bear there and they had some smaller animals, and the zoo really kind of hit its height in the 20s and 30s.
What's interesting when you walk through the West Ridge neighborhood is the architecture. No buildings really alike, a lot of unique spots, including these right here. Paul, what else do we need to know about the architecture here in West Ridge?
The neighborhood kind of grew in leaps and bounds in the 20s and 30s, and framing the park you have these beautiful 1920s era apartment buildings, and then beyond that you have some of the best examples of Chicago bungalows you could find anywhere.
Walking through Indian Boundary Park, you really get a sense of community. So Paul, who are the folks that live here?
Lots of different communities have called West Ridge and Rogers Park to the east home over the years. Originally, it was Germans and actually people from Luxembourg who were settling there and establishing farms. But by the early 20th century, you began to see more Jewish families moving to the West Ridge area, and today you've got a lot of people from Southeast Asia living in the area.
Fantastic. Any other fun facts we need to know about West Ridge?
West Ridge is known, for its great residential architecture, for its beautiful public parks, and just for being a very kind of neighborhood within Chicago neighborhoods.
You're looking at what used to be known as Thillen Stadium right here in the West Ridge neighborhood, and there's a significant reason why this baseball field is here, and it's pretty fantastic. Paul, give me the rundown on Old Thillen Stadium.
What's significant about that is that's where basically the first, it was called by a different name at the time, but with the first Little League teams in Chicago, that's where they were established and that's where they played.
Really? That's where Chicago's Little League started?
Yep.
That is a fun fact. I love that one. Anything else we need to know about good old West Ridge?
West Ridge residents are still very proud of their community area, so do not confuse them by calling them residents of West Rogers Park.
All right, so you're looking at one of the major corridors of the West Ridge neighborhood. This is Devon Avenue, and as Paul mentioned earlier, home to many Jewish families at the turn of last century, still known as one of the biggest Hasidic Jewish communities in all of America. This particular stretch of Devon Avenue, however, is known as Little India. A lot of restaurants and businesses. I talked to Mita, who owns that business right there, Sari Sapne, about the legacy being right here on Devon Avenue.
So my family came here in the late 70s and opened up our first retail showroom in 1982. So they've had a clothing store on Devon Avenue since 1982. We've been here for over 4 decades.
I asked Mita, how has the neighborhood changed over the years?
I mean, it's exploded over the last few years, or last few decades rather, and has included many other shops, both clothing, jewelry, some fantastic restaurants. So it's really its own community.
It's such a beautiful name, but what does Sari Sapne mean?
And Sari Sapne means Sari dreams, because we want to fulfill all your dreams.
And a sari is a piece of clothing that's 6 yards long, about?
Yes,
Right?
so it'll either come with a blouse piece that can be stitched, or a ready-made blouse like this, and then it's 6 yards of fabric that can be wrapped around in multiple different ways, and different areas of India will actually have their own traditional way of wrapping it.
And some of the saris are on the wall behind you
So all
there.
these up here hung up, as well as shelves and shelves behind you.
I asked Mita to walk me through the store and kind of give me the layout of what each section has.
So it's mostly traditional Indian clothing. We have some Pakistani clothing as well, and then we do have a lot of fusion items. So nowadays a lot of like Western inspired Indian clothing, so kind of what I'm wearing, as well as different types of combinations that kind of reflect a lot of different cultures.
And when you say Western inspired, are you mostly speaking of the United States inspired, or?
So like a lot of, I suppose, Western in the sense of United States or European rather,
Got it.
where it's more like, you know, tailored jackets and a little different cuts of clothing, and just kind of combining those with the traditional materials as well as embroideries and embellishments of India.
And a lot of, or if all of the clothing items here are from India.
Yes, they are.
So the specialty of this store is traditional Indian clothing. Why don't we get a little sample of what that looks like? Take a look.
Some of the major traditional items for women's clothing are the saris, which are 6 yards of fabric. There's also lengas and chaniya cholis, which are like a skirt bottom, ready-made skirt bottom and ready-made top, and it'll come with a shawl or dupatta. There's also some that are a little bit more casual for casual wear, which are Shewakramani, which people can wear on a regular basis. And then we also sell separate tunics, which are just tops. And you can wear it with jeans, you can wear it with, you know, capris, whatever you like. So we try to keep a variety of everything. And then for men, we have kurta pajamas, which are long tunics and pants, as well as more formal jodhpuris and sherwanis, which are more like tailored suits, but of the Indian style. And then we do carry a full line of children's clothing as well, both boys and girls.
And these are for formal and all the way to not so formal.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you know, we have women in our community that wear saris every day. That's just what their go-to clothing. But, you know, they'll be usually a little bit simpler materials, softer materials, easy to wash materials. And then we have some that are like in the purest silks that are reserved more for weddings or special occasions, special prayers.
Mita said that her family started this back in 1982, so I thought it'd be fun to hear their story. Take a listen.
You know, they're probably some of them, if not the most hardworking people I know. So, you know, my dad came here literally with $8 in his pocket, you know, in the late 70s, and he's been able to work so hard and build something so great in this community, both for our family as well as, you know, for our staff that we have over here, and for anyone who's shopping over here. We just try to do hard work, have integrity in our items, and try to make it the best experience for everybody.
Mita's family has had a huge impact in the area. They have other businesses. They even started a temple.
So that was one of my dad's dreams, actually, because there's never been really a temple in this area and for this community. And he grew up with a very strong faith, and specifically for the god Ganesh, which, you know, when you pray to Ganesh when you want to overcome obstacles, or anytime you start anything new. So if you ever start a new business or get a new home, you always pray for his blessings. And that's something that always resonated very deeply with my father, and something that I think has really helped him throughout his journey. So that was something that he wanted to give back to the community. So in 2016, our foundation purchased a vacant property right on Devon Avenue, just a block down from us, and we've been working really hard to make it one of the best temples in the area.
And what's it mean now for you to have your family start a temple in what you now know as Little India here on Devon Avenue? What's it mean to you and your family to be able to have done that?
I think it's just really special that there's something like that in this community now, you know, because it's something that has never really been available to, you know, the Hindus that are in this area. And there is such a huge Hindu population both in Little India and in the greater Chicagoland area. And for us to have that involvement and to create that unity, I think is really important.
With so many things in the West Ridge community area, I asked Mita what her favorite was.
It's just, you know, the people. There's, you know, interacting with people on a day-to-day basis, I would say, is the best part of the job. You know, everything else, you know, work is work, inventory is inventory, but when you get to, you know, be part of that moment where you find the perfect outfit for somebody's wedding, or like, you know, the perfect piece of jewelry for a gift for somebody, you know, that being part of that experience has always been the most fulfilling.
And it's clear that this is not just a family business, this is a family legacy.
So my parents started it, and then it's our generation. I have 2 older siblings that are also involved in our businesses, and then they have 8 kids between them. So, you know, they come to the store, all the family, and, you know, they come to the store regularly. You know, we give them a little training on what's what as well. So just be able to pass down that information as well.
So if you've never been to the West Ridge area, never even knew where it was until this video, here's what you've been missing.
You know, I would just say it's such a different world than what's out there. Because, like, I feel very privileged in the fact that I grew up in a world of color. You know, like, if you see just behind me, you can see the shades of every single color in the world. And then when I step outside, everything's so gray.
Especially in the winter, right?
Yeah. So I would just, you know, just for the beauty of the fabrics, even if you're not necessarily going to wear anything, you know, you can just come in, even see the fabrics. If you're a creative type, you can always use these fabrics. I have customers who've made curtains out of these saris, and, like, you know, pillowcases and everything like that. And they've been able to use it in ways that I would never even imagine. So I really think there's something for everybody here.
And what about Devon Avenue itself here in West Ridge? Why, you know, folks who've never been to West Ridge or even Rogers Park or the north side of the city, why come down on Devon and spend time on Devon?
You know, if you've ever been curious about, you know, different cultures than your own, if you are into great food, I would definitely come to this area. And if you just want to kind of get out of your shell a little and, you know, just see what Chicago has to offer, this is one of the best places because it's so diverse within, you know, less than half a mile radius. You know, we have, you know, historically Hasidic Jews have been settled here. We have Hindus, we have Christians, we have Muslims, we have every kind of people in this very compact area.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're living so peacefully too, you know, so I feel like it's a reflection of what the world should be.
Absolutely. That's a great way to end the video. Mita, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me. And here's to another 40 years of this wonderful spot.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Take a look at this right there. You're looking at a plaque for the Tallman West Ridge Bungalow Historical District. A lot of beautiful bungalows along this stretch of Tallman right here in the West Ridge neighborhood. Pretty cool. You should come and check it out.